You walk down the cleaning aisle at any store today, and you will see 100 different bottles and sprays. One for the glass, one for the tub, one for the toilet, one for the tile. Each promising to be the one thing you cannot clean your bathroom without, and each costing you dear and filling your house with harsh fumes besides. We have been conditioned to think that without this complex chemistry set under the sink, our homes cannot truly be clean or safe. But stop and think about it. How did folks live cleanly before these shelves were filled with all those plastic containers? Understand this. Here is a thing the old people knew and we have forgotten. You can clean your whole bathroom, every single bit of it sparkling and fresh, with just a few cheap, simple things you likely have in your kitchen already. Vinegar and a lemon and the like. No harsh chemicals and next to no cost. Today, I am going to give you 7 of the best old tricks for cleaning a bathroom. And by the end, you may never buy a bottle of commercial bathroom cleaner again. I am Elias, and on this Lancaster County place, we keep things clean the old plain way, with vinegar and lemon and baking soda, and a bit of honest elbow grease. The way folks did, long before the shelves filled up with all those bottles. And I will tell you, the old ways clean every bit as well, often better, for far less money, and with none of the harsh stuff you would rather not breathe nor have about your children. Quick word before I go further. The old methods my family uses, there is more of it than fits in any one video. I gathered the whole of it into a book at eliasodor.com. The book is the long version. If you want it, it is there. I will not mention it again. My mother kept no cabinet of cleaning bottles. I do not think she ever bought a single one in her life. What she had was a jug of white vinegar, a box of baking soda, a cake of plain soap, a few lemons when she could get them, and a basket of clean rags cut from worn-out clothes. And with those few things, she kept a house you could eat off the floor of. I remember the whole place smelling faintly of vinegar on a cleaning day. A clean, sharp, honest smell. Not the choking chemical reek you get now. I remember how the windows shone in the morning light, and how she would set us children to wiping the glass until it was completely clear. She used to say that dirt is afraid of vinegar and elbow grease and not much else, and that all those bottles were just vinegar, with a high price and a heavy perfume on it. I have come to think she was very near right, and the tricks I am about to give you are mostly hers. Before I start, let me tell you why these few cheap things do so much, for once you understand the root of it, you will reach for them by instinct. Most of the dirt in a bathroom is one of 2 kinds. There is the hard water and soap, scum, and lime kind, the white crusty mineral buildup that ruins the shine of your fixtures. An acid is what dissolves that, which is why vinegar and lemon, both mild, natural acids, are your great weapons against it. It cuts through the mineral crust just like warm water melts down sugar. And then there is the greasy, grimy, sticky kind of dirt left behind by oils and daily use. Plain soap and a little scrubbing handle that completely. Baking soda is your tool here. A powder as soft as talc to the touch, but with just enough microscopic grit to scour cleanly without scratching. So between an acid for the mineral crust and soap and baking soda for the grease and the scrubbing, you have the answer to near everything in the room. That is the whole of it. Every one of those costly bottles is just some version of those same few things, dressed up, perfumed, and priced high. Now, let me give you an honest word about the limitations of these old ways, because I will always tell you plainly where a method works and where it doesn't. Because we rely on mild acids like vinegar and lemon, you must keep them completely off natural stone. If you have marble countertops, granite sinks, or limestone tile in your bathroom, do not let vinegar or lemon sit on them. The acid can etch and dull a polished stone surface over time. For natural stone, the old way relies strictly on plain soap and warm water, and you save the acids for everything else. Furthermore, these natural remedies do not work with the instant, aggressive speed of a chemical solvent. They require a patient hand. Sometimes you must let the vinegar sit for a quarter of an hour to let the acid do its work, while you tend to something else. It asks for a small measure of patience and a bit of effort. Why do you pay for this every year? How did they live without it before? There is a quiet good sense in cleaning your home with plain, simple things that cost almost nothing and harm no one rather than a cabinet of costly chemicals. If you are ready to learn the few plain things, let us begin with the first trick. It is for your mirror and your glass, and it is a fine old one that will surprise you. Most people reach for that bright blue spray and a roll of paper towels. But we are going to use a common leaf from the pantry, black tea, and yesterday's crumpled newspaper. Let me show you exactly how this old combination cuts right through the film and the grime without leaving a single streak behind. You begin at the stove, where the old ways often do. Take a small pot or a heavy mug and pour in 1 cup of water, just 8 ounces, and bring it to a rolling boil. Drop in 3 or 4 bags of plain, cheap black tea. Don't look for anything fancied up with bergamot or herbal scents. The plain, bitter orange pekoe is what carries the strength you need. Let it sit right there on the counter until the liquid turns a deep, dark mahogany brown, nearly black, and cools down completely to the touch of your hand. This is the first place a beginner will slip up. They get impatient and use the tea while it is still warm. Understand this. If you apply warm tea to a cold mirror, it evaporates too quickly on the glass and leaves a hazy, stubborn shadow behind. It must be cold. While that settles, go find yesterday's newspaper. Here is another mistake folks make. They grab the shiny, glossy coupon inserts or the colorful grocery ads because they look pretty. That glossy paper has a thin clay coating used to hold the bright dyes, and if you wet it, that clay will smudge right off onto your glass and leave it looking worse than when you started. You want the plain, dull gray newsprint, the kind that leaves a faint smudge of dark ink on your fingertips when you read it. Take a single sheet and crumple it into a ball about the size of a crisp winter apple. Don't squeeze it so tight it becomes hard as a stone. Leave it some spring and give it plenty of edges. Dip just the corner of that paper ball into the cool, dark tea. You do not want it dripping wet. A sodden mass of paper will tear instantly and dissolve into gray mush on your mirror. It should feel damp, nothing more. Rub the glass firmly in small, overlapping circles. As you work, you will smell the earthy, slightly bitter scent of the tea leaves mixing with the clean smell of the old ink. Watch closely as the gray film from daily dust and hairspray begins to loosen. Once the surface is covered, do not wait for it to dry on its own. Take a fresh, completely dry piece of crumpled newspaper and begin to buff the wet glass. Work from the top of the mirror down to the bottom, using long, straight, deliberate strokes. Listen for the sound. It will start with a silent wet slide and turn into a clean, sharp squeak under your hand. That squeak is the sound of bare, honest glass with no chemical film left behind to catch the light. Let us move over to the tub and the shower stall for the second trick, where the soap scum hides. Take an empty quart jar or a clean, reused spray bottle. Pour in 1 cup of plain white vinegar. If it is winter and your house is cool, warm that vinegar in a small pan just until it is lukewarm. Not boiling, just pleasant to the hand. This is a small bit of wisdom my mother taught me. Warm vinegar blends far better with soap, while cold vinegar tends to separate. Now, take 1 cup of common liquid dish soap, the regular blue or green kind. Pour it slowly into the vinegar. Watch how the thick, colored soap sinks through the clear liquid like slow-rolling smoke in a valley. Now, do not shake that bottle like you are mixing a can of paint. That is a common error. Shaking it violently fills the container with nothing but white foam, breaking the emulsion and making it near impossible to spray or spread evenly. Instead, turn the jar upside down slowly, then right side up, letting the liquids slide into one another until the mixture becomes uniform. A thick, smooth, slick liquid that smells sharply of vinegar but carries the body of the soap. Take a common sponge or a hollow-handled dish wand, fill it with your mixture, and step into the dry shower. Wipe the liquid onto the tile or the glass door. Now stop and think. Do not reach for the shower head to rinse it away yet. The vinegar needs time to eat through the hard water minerals, and the soap needs time to dissolve the body oils in the scum. Leave it sit for 15 minutes while you tend to something else. When you return, take a damp rag, give the worst spots a light rub, and wash it down with clean water. The grime will run down the drain like gray milk, leaving the tile slick and smooth to the touch. Next are your metal fixtures, the faucets and the handles that have gathered that white, crusty lime buildup. Take a fresh lemon from the kitchen and cut it clean through the middle. The bright, sharp scent of citrus will fill the small room instantly, cutting right through the smell of the vinegar. Take 1/2 and look at the crust around the base of your faucet. If the buildup is light, just press the open face of the lemon right onto the metal and turn it, squeezing slightly to coat the piece in the thick, cloudy juice. But if that crust has been there all season, it asks for a bit of grit. Take a small saucer and put down a spoonful of coarse salt, the big rough crystals, not the fine table salt. Fine salt dissolves the moment it touches the wet fruit, but the coarse kind stays whole. Dip the cut face of the lemon into that salt until the crystals stick to the yellow pulp like winter frost. Bring it to the metal and rub. You will hear a distinct crunching sound under your fingers. That is the salt working as a gentle rasp to break the crust, while the lemon juice softens the lime underneath. Don't press so hard you bend the fixtures. Let the grit and the acid do the labor. When the crunching stops, the salt has done its work. Wipe it clean with a damp rag for the tightest corners, where the metal meets the porcelain basin and your fingers cannot fit. Take an old toothbrush with firm bristles. Dip it straight into a cup of raw vinegar and work it into that dark crease. You will see the old crust break loose in small white flakes, leaving the joints as clean as the day they were set. While you have that toothbrush in hand, look at the small things most folks neglect. The little porcelain cup where the toothbrushes sit, and the soap dish that holds a slimy puddle of gray water. Gather them up and place them in the sink. Pour in 2 cups of steaming hot water from the kettle, then add 1 cup of clear white vinegar. Let them sit down in that warm bath for half an hour. Understand this. The dried toothpaste in the bottom of a holder is as hard as kiln-fired pottery because it has dried out over months. If you try to scrub it dry, you will only scratch the finish. The hot vinegar bath turns that hard sludge back into a soft gel that slides away under a running tap, leaving the smallest corners of your room fresh. Now we must address the toilet bowl. Take a few long strips of common toilet paper and a shallow dish filled with a cup of white vinegar. Dip the paper until it is wet but not tearing. Then reach up under the hidden rim of the bowl and press that wet paper flat against the porcelain. It will stick there like wet leaves to a stone wall. If you simply pour vinegar down the bowl, it slides past the rim in 3 seconds and does no good. Pinned there with the paper, the acid stays in contact with the hidden stains for an hour. While it sits, pour another cup of vinegar directly into the water below. If you have a stubborn ring at the water line, sprinkle a handful of baking soda over the vinegar. It will immediately begin to hiss and foam, a white bubbling reaction that looks like boiling snow. That fizzing is the carbon dioxide gas lifting the grime from the porcelain surface. Let it sit until the bubbling dies down into a quiet murmur. Then take your long brush and scrub the bowl. Reach up under the rim, pull away the soaked paper, and give that hidden track a firm wipe with your old toothbrush before flushing it all away into clean water. Do not put that wet brush back into a dry holder to sit in its own filth. Pour 2 inches of clean white vinegar straight into the bottom of the brush holder before you set the brush down. It keeps the drips from turning foul and dark in the dark of the cup. Lastly, look to your dryer vent if your machine sits near the washroom. Pull the heavy machine away from the wall until you can see the silver ribbing of the exhaust pipe and unhook it gently. Inside, you will see a thick gray wool, the lint that escaped the screen. Take an old cardboard tube from a finished roll of paper towels and tape it to the nozzle of your vacuum cleaner. Squeeze the end of the cardboard thin with your fingers so it forms a narrow, flat snout that can reach where plastic cannot. Guide it deep into the metal pipe and the back of the dryer until you hear the loud, rattling thud of the dry clumps being sucked away. Step outside your house to the wall where the pipe lets out and lift the plastic louvers with your fingers to ensure no old lint has matted the opening shut. When the air can push through freely, the task is done and your home is secure from the silent hazard of a hidden fire. Now that we have walked through the doing of it, I want you to stop and think about the why. A method is only as good as your understanding of it. For if you only copy the actions without knowing the principle, you will eventually make a mistake when the conditions change. What my mother knew by tradition and daily practice, modern science explains quite simply. It all comes down to a matter of balance in nature, the seesaw of chemistry. Think of the dirt in your home like a seesaw. On one side you have substances that are acidic, and on the other you have substances that are alkaline, or what the old folks called basic. Nature always wants that seesaw to sit perfectly level right in the middle. When things get too far out of balance on one side, you need something from the opposite side to pull it back down to center. The acids, white vinegar and lemon juice, sit firmly on the acidic side of the scale. They carry a mild, natural sourness that makes them highly reactive with minerals. The alkalines, the white, crusty buildup around your faucets, the lime, the calcium from hard water, and the baking soda in your cupboard sit on the opposite, alkaline side. When you rub a cut lemon or pour white vinegar onto that hard water crust, you are bringing a mild acid into direct contact with a heavy alkaline mineral. A quiet chemical battle takes place right before your eyes. The acid breaks the tight chemical bonds, holding those calcium molecules together, dissolving the crust into a liquid form that simply washes away in the rinse water. It is the exact same reason why vinegar cuts through the stubborn soap scum on your shower glass. That scum is mostly hard water minerals bound up with the fatty tallow from bar soap. The acid unglues the minerals, and the grime loses its grip on the pane. The soft power of baking soda now. Look at the baking soda. It operates on the exact opposite side of that seesaw. Baking soda is a mild alkaline powder. The greasy, sticky film that builds up on a sink basin or a tub from body oils, soaps, and lotions is composed largely of fatty acids. When the alkaline baking soda meets those fatty acids, they perform a small chemical transformation called saponification. In simple terms, the baking soda turns the grease into a crude form of soap that can dissolve easily in plain water. But there is a physical science to baking soda as well. If you roll it between your thumb and forefinger, it feels like a fine powder, soft as talc to your skin. But under a lens, those tiny grains are actually sharp, square crystals. They have just enough physical edge to act like thousands of tiny wooden scrapers, lifting stuck-on grime from porcelain without being hard enough to scratch or dull the factory glaze. The bite of black tea. And what of the black tea on the mirror? That relies on a completely different element called tannic acid, or tannins. Think of the way a cup of oversteeped, strong black tea leaves a dry, puckery feel on your tongue when you take a sip. That is the tannins drawing the moisture and oils together. When you wipe that cool tea onto a mirror, those same tannins chemically bind to the microscopic, oily film left behind by dust, skin oils, and grooming sprays, lifting it off the glass so the dry newspaper can carry it away without smearing. The honest boundaries of the old ways understand this plainly. I am a practitioner, not a salesman, and every true method has its honest limits. There are places where these kitchen remedies must never go. And if you do not learn these boundaries, you will do costly harm to your home. The golden rule of natural cleaning. Never allow an acid like vinegar or lemon juice to touch a surface made of natural stone or soft metal. Material: can I use vinegar lemon? What happens if I do? The old way alternative porcelain and ceramic tile: yes cleans and shines safely regular wash with Vi. Neger and soap glass and mirrors yes cuts film with no streaks tea or vinegar with newspaper natural stone, marble, lek, granite, NO permanent clouding and etching plain water, and a cake of mild soap grout lines, cement-based, rarely long-term erosion of the cement baki. NG soda paste with light scrubbing soft metals, aluminum copper, NO pitting. Darkening and tarnish quick, wipe with soap, dry immediately. Let us look closely at these failures so you do not repeat them in your own home. If you have marble, granite, limestone, or travertine anywhere in your bathroom, keep the vinegar far away from it. These stones are formed by nature out of calcium carbonate, the exact same mineral that makes up the hard water crust on your faucet. If you spray vinegar on a marble countertop, the acid cannot tell the difference between the stone and the dirt. It will attack the marble itself, eating microscopic craters into the surface. This is called etching, and it leaves a permanent cloudy white shadow that ruins the polish. No amount of wiping will ever take it out. The same caution applies to soft metals like aluminum or uncoated brass. Aluminum is highly reactive. If you leave a chrome-plated drain cover that has worn down to the bare aluminum base, sitting in a vinegar bath to clear the lime, the metal will pit, turning a dull, unsightly gray. You must also mind your tile grout over the long haul. Modern grout is made of cement and sand, which is highly alkaline. If you spray a heavy vinegar solution onto your tiled shower walls every single day and leave it to dry without rinsing, that mild acid will slowly, bite by bite, eat away at the lime in the cement. Over a few years, your grout will soften and begin to crumble out of the joints like dry bread. The old people knew this by observation. They used the vinegar for a quick wash, but for deep scrubbing of the grout lines, they always reached for the baking soda paste, which protects the cement while the grit does the work. A lesson on disinfection finally. We must talk honestly about the difference between cleaning and disinfecting. Vinegar is wonderful for daily life because its acidity destroys the cell walls of common mold, mildew, and many simple household bacteria. It keeps the air wholesome and the surfaces clean. But understand this, vinegar is not a registered, hospital-grade sanitizer. It will not kill heavy viruses or stubborn pathogens instantly the way a harsh bottle of chlorine bleach will if someone in your home is nursing a severe, highly contagious sickness, or if you are cleaning up a heavy biohazard. That is not the time to rely on the jug of vinegar. That is the time to respect the gravity of the situation. Bring out the modern chemical disinfectants if you have them. Use them with proper ventilation. And then return to your plain, quiet ways once the danger has passed. True self-sufficiency is not about being stubborn. It is about knowing exactly which tool fits the task at hand. To understand the true weight of these plain methods, we have to look back before the modern marketplace was built. This way of keeping a home is not a collection of cheap modern hacks, nor is it some passing internet trend. It is a long, unbroken thread of human necessity that stretches back across centuries, preserved by folks who had to make every single resource count. Before the mid-20th century, when the chemical industries began packaging liquids into plastic bottles, every household in this country operated on the very principles we discuss today. The deep roots of the plain way if you look into the old household ledgers from the 19th century, or the frontier diaries of women who settled the valleys of Pennsylvania and Ohio, you will find no mention of specialized cleaners. In those days, a woman's cleaning kit was small enough to fit into a wooden handbox. White vinegar was not bought by the little pint bottle. It was fermented right on the homestead in large oak barrels from the excess cider of the autumn harvest. It was a primary preservative for the larder first, and what was left over became the universal wash for the home. The baking soda we take for granted in its neat cardboard box was refined into its modern form in the 1840s by two men named Austin Church and John Dwight. Before their plain white powder reached the country stores, our ancestors relied on wood ash from the hearth, soaking it in rainwater to create a slick, alkaline lye for cut grease washing. When sodium bicarbonate became cheap and common, it was treated like gold in the kitchen and the wash house alike. It was the everyday miracle of the pioneer home. And that newspaper trick for the glass? That came about in the Victorian era, right when the daily printing presses began turning out cheap news sheets by the thousands. Paper towels did not exist, and linen rags were far too precious to be wasted on windows when they were needed for clothing and bedding. The discovery that the raw wood fibers of common newsprint, combined with the bitter tannins of leftover morning tea, could leave a window completely free of streaks was passed from neighbor to neighbor until it became standard practice across the land. It was a perfect piece of thrift, using the news of yesterday to bring the light of today into the house. What the bulletins confirm now, some folks will hear this and think it is just old-fashioned sentiment, a bit of folklore kept alive by stubborn country people. But if you look into the scientific records, you will find that modern research confirms exactly what the old people knew by simple observation, documentary evidence, for decades. Agricultural extension offices and university laboratories have quietly published the hard data behind these traditional kitchen staples, proving their efficacy under scientific scrutiny. If you read the technical bulletins published by the cooperative extension services across universities like Wisconsin and Arkansas, the chemistry is laid bare. They document that sodium bicarbonate, our common baking soda, deodorizes not by covering up a scent with an oil, but by chemically neutralizing both acidic and basic odor molecules, bringing them into a completely neutral scent-free state. Furthermore, the data regarding plain vinegar is quite specific. The Vinegar Institute, alongside university researchers from the University of Georgia and the University of Florida, conducted extensive suspension and surface tests on the antimicrobial properties of common 5% acetic acid, which is standard household white vinegar. Their published findings show that a simple vinegar wash successfully reduces the presence of common household bacterial pathogens by approximately 90%, and certain viral strains by up to 95%. Long before industrial sanitizers were formulated in laboratories, the dairy farmers of this county were using vinegar to prevent the buildup of milkstone in their holding tanks, keeping their equipment wholesome and free of mineral crust by the exact same principle we use on our bathroom faucets today. Modern science did not invent these truths. It simply measured what our grandmothers already knew to be true. NIH, the true cost of the modern shelf, so we must ask ourselves the honest question: how did we lose hold of this knowledge? How did we let these simple, effective solutions slip away from our daily habits? It did not happen because vinegar stopped working, and it did not happen because the old ways failed. It happened because there is immense profit in selling a man a separate plastic bottle for every room, every surface, and every corner of his house. There is a whole industry built upon making you feel that your home is a dangerous place that requires specialized, industrial-strength chemistry to remain habitable. And because there is no money to be made in reminding a person that a 3-cent lemon and a cup of vinegar can clean a shower stall, nobody bought advertising space to tell you so. The heavy bottles filled up the store shelves. Their artificial perfumes filled our homes, and the quiet good sense of the old ways was crowded out. But the old knowledge is still here, waiting under the surface. It costs next to nothing. It leaves no toxic residue behind for your children to crawl through, and it asks nothing of you but a small measure of your own time and effort. A quiet invitation: understand this. You do not have to change your whole life in a single afternoon. You do not have to go under your sink right now and throw away every commercial cleaner you own. True self-sufficiency is a path walked by small, steady steps. My invitation to you is simple. The next time your bathroom mirror gathers that gray film of dust, or the next time the hard water crust begins to dull the shine of your sink faucet, do not walk down the cleaning aisle at the store. Pass by the blue sprays and the chemical powders. Come back to your own kitchen instead. Brew that cup of strong black tea and let it cool. Cut a plain lemon in half and dip it into the coarse salt from your pantry. Take those few simple things into your bathroom and see what happens under the weight of your own hands. Listen for that clean, honest squeak of bare glass under the newspaper. Look at the bright, deep shine of the metal when the lemon juice has finished its work. Smear that thick paste of baking soda into the grimy corners and watch the dirt loosen without the bite of chemical fumes in your throat. When you see that room clean, fresh, and wholesome, accomplished with nothing but a few pennies worth of kitchen goods and a bit of your own labor, something will change inside your mind. You will realize that you are the master of your own home and that you do not need the store shelves to keep it clean. There is a deep, quiet satisfaction in that knowledge.